Never can say goodbye. No, no, never. You know what? I meant to test this out first to make sure that it works. So, what's up? What's up, YouTube? This microphone working. All right. So here we go. This microphone working. It's the security czar with the G.O.A.T TV. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome onto the channel. So today, thank you for the people who just joined. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the security world, right? I'm going to take these glasses off. I'm going to talk about how I got into executive protection and how I ended up where I am today. But more importantly, I think some of the things that people don't talk about, everybody glorifies the executive protection or bodyguard field, depending on where you're from or where you're watching from. When I talk about executive protection, a lot of people don't know what it means. So I always quantify it by saying the bodyguard. Makes it really simple. So not talking big words. So a lot of people aren't in the security field at all, so they wouldn't know what executive protection is. So I always talk, when I talk about it, I say bodyguard. And then you have some of the uptight people who get mad and then they're quick to be critical and judge without even knowing who I am, because if you went and did your research and your homework, you probably stay tuned to this live and listen to it till the end, because I really I'm a pioneer in the executive protection industry for the private industry, and a lot of people coming from the security world and the law enforcement world. So I learned a lot of things along the way. Some things that I wish that I hadn't had to experience, some things that I'm glad that I went through. And, I wanted to share that with you guys. So I'm going to start coming on here on live at least once every day, at least once a day, every day. I'm going to give you guys small tips. It may be only a few minutes, but if you want to learn about the executive protection business, if you want to become a bodyguard and you want to be successful in it, let me just tell you, Instagram and social media has made this stuff glorified, and it makes it look easy when in fact it's not easy. So I started in the executive protection business when I was a young guy. So I'm from Washington, D.C. I was a Washington, D.C. police officer, and I retired as a Washington, D.C. police captain at the age of 35 years old. And when I retired, I was very young. So I retired from post-traumatic stress, PTSD. Those of you guys who are familiar with PTSD is. So during my career, I was involved in several shootings, seen people die in some of the most horrific ways. Excuse me, guys. Oh, man. Excuse me. So I've seen people die in some of the most horrific ways. I've been shot. I've been stabbed as a police officer. And so I was able to retire when I was retire early. So I was 35 years old. I was the assistant district commander of a police precinct in Washington, D.C. And an assistant district commander in Washington, D.C. is equivalent to a police captain. So I was the youngest person. If they ever wrote a book about the Washington, D.C. Police Department, they couldn't write that book without putting my name in it. And so so when I retired, I was still young, still had young children. And I mean, this story can go down a deep rabbit hole, because before I tell you how I got into executive protection, I have to tell you, I had to start a company at some point to get from point A to point B. But when I was with the Metropolitan Police Department, remember that I was a very high ranking person at a young age. And so when I got promoted to lieutenant, they assigned me to the first district. And I also was assigned to the second district. So let me tell you what's inside of the first police district. Well, the first police district in D.C. is downtown Washington, D.C. So my my police station was about 5 minutes from Capitol Hill. So, and it was about 5 minutes from Capitol Hill and about 9 minutes to the White House and the State Department and all of those other places. So, because my police precinct was downtown, we often had to work with the Secret Service, the State Department, the Capitol Hill Police, and a whole bunch of other government agencies. And in addition to that, in the second police district where, in the second and third police districts where I worked at, there was all of the embassies for countries from around the world. So I had to deal a lot with the State Department, had to deal with a lot with the security agent, the security personnel, and from these embassies, these world embassies and world leaders, and we had to move the president a lot. So we call it POTUS, which is the president of the United States. And when they say we're having a POTUS movement, we're having a movement of the president of the United States. And so you would often, especially as a lieutenant or a district commander or assistant district commander, you had to organize those motorcades and those movements and shutting down traffic in the city, along with the Secret Service and the Special Operations Division. So working in my regular job, I got to meet a lot of people. This was a real benefit for me. I got to work with a lot of people. So some of the people who retired as Secret Service and State Department agents, when they retired, they started a security company, and they pretty much just rolled over into what they were already doing, but doing it on a higher level, on a personal and private side. So I was able to come under the tutelage of a lot of those people. And at that time, we didn't even know, there wasn't no whole lot of talk. There was a whole lot of talk about executive protection school. So I'm learning from the people who was actually doing this. I had on-the-job training from people who were actually doing this on a daily basis as their careers. So that's how I got brought in and into the executive protection industry on a professional level. But before I do that, I want to go backwards how I started. As a young police officer in DC, we had a lot of celebrities. So DC is a popular city. We had the Washington Wizards basketball team. We had local bands and local bands and entertainment. We had local personalities, radio station hosts, things of that nature. So DC is a live city. Something is always happening, be it a concert, a festival, some kind of show at a nightclub. And so that was my very first segue into executive protection as a young man in my early 20s. So I said I'm 54 now, and I've been doing this over 30 years. So I used to work in the nightclubs as a uniformed police officer, right, for crowd control and handle stuff like that. And so I picked up the local celebrities. And in DC, any of you all from DC, we had what's called go-go music. If you don't know about go-go music, please look it up. And honestly, that's what actually got me into a lot of the use of force things, where I had to use my service weapon to protect myself and others. So at those nightclubs. So I started working with those people. The go-go bands and the live entertainment works with the radio stations, right? So I was able to start getting work from the radio station. So I would get local celebrities coming into town. If I was working at the nightclub, the celebrities would need to go to the stage and, be escorted in and out of the nightclub. And you'll find this out, I'll tell you now, as you work in this profession, this thing is about networking, who you know, right? Making relationships, having good character is one of the things as well. But so I got to know all of the club promoters. I got to know the radio station DJs, the hosts, because they would show up at everything. And once I started to work with them, I started to get more customers. All right. So one of my very first customers was Mary J. Blige back in about, I want to say, in 2005, 2006. So I worked with Mary J. Blige for 3 years, right? And at this time, remember, I'm still a young officer, so I hadn't learned all the things that I need. Well, yeah, by that time I had started working, correction, I had to start working with State Department, because at that point, And in 2006 and 2007, I was a lieutenant and a captain. So I had already, by the time I started working with Mary, I had started learning the uh, the actual professional side of executive protection. Before that, it was muscles, it was the gym, it was, it was ego, it was bravado, and it was like ludicrous song, move B, get out my way, get out my way. So that's how it was. And a lot of people that you see today who are doing this job, they believe that's it. The calls that I get or the emails that I get, the DMs that I get, people say, hey, listen, I'm 6'9", I'm 6'7", I'm 280, I bench press this, I do this and that. And they say, I think that I could be a good candidate to be a bodyguard, or I could work with you. And I'm gonna just tell you that's furthest from the truth. Yeah, it may happen. I mean, it may help you if you get into something, but honestly, this is that if you're getting into something, if you're resorting to fighting, or you're resorting to using your firearm or some kind of other use of force, I gotta just honestly tell you that you seriously failed you seriously failed altogether, because the job of executive protection is really, really boring. You can work a 18-hour day, 15-hour day, 12-hour day, 10-hour day, 8-hour day, and a lot of that time is downtime. And this depends on who you're working with too. A lot of that time is downtime. And so you're not dealing with people. So your periods of dealing with people are short spurts of interactions with people. And so I say all of the weightlifting, all of the gun stuff, 98% of the jobs in executive protection in the United States for private citizens are unarmed. Now, you'll see a lot of people, especially in the entertainment industry, walking around with AR rifles and stuff like that. That is, I mean, you would never get a corporate executive that would have you to have an AR rifle and working with them. And I even seen a guy in a suit. He's running around, so I'm not even going to talk about anybody's particular course that they give, but wearing that, I've worked 30 years. I've never had an AR rifle in a suit. Well, not on me. Maybe we had it in the back of the armored vehicle because we were working on a high risk, high threat security detail. But far as just walking around, I got this corporate executive. I've never done that. I've never had a rifle strapped to. Thank you. Appreciate it. No, that's good. Thank you. You can take this. And this. So, sorry guys, I haven't eaten all day, and I took a nap earlier today, so forgive me, but I'm going to eat in your face if you guys don't mind. So, nonetheless, and shout out to Go Fuel Energy. Go Fuel Energy this is what I drink. I used to drink Red Bull. I used to drink Monster Energy. All of the energy drinks plus coffee. I've had all of that, and so I was working a security detail, and I was going between DC and New York, and I'm talking about I was drained, and so I stopped at a gas station along the way. I never even heard of this stuff before. Go Fuel. I stopped along the way, and I picked this up, and then the packaging caught my eye. So, and the one that I had, I actually have it in the refrigerator. I got a bunch of this stuff. It's from NFL legend Jerry Rice. He created this drink. It's an energy drink. It has all natural ingredients, natural caffeine, cordyceps mushrooms, and you can drink it and you won't have any crash. And that's what I liked about it. So I drank this, and it powered me on the way up to New York because it was a late night. I had worked in DC, drove up to New York, and I had a 5 a.m. morning. So I really didn't know how I was going to make it. I was literally running on fumes. So once I got to New York, I had enough time to unpack my truck, go upstairs, take a shower, put on a suit, and then head over to Manhattan to do the work that I needed to do. So I actually picked up this G.O.A.T Fuel Energy, powered me up, and I've been drinking it ever since. So if you're an energy drinker or coffee drinker, if you want something new, check out G.O.A.T Fuel. There's going to be a link in the description, but you can find this in a lot of the local convenience stores and gas stations, probably in your community. So back to what I was saying. So I started working with Mary J. Blige. That was just a pleasure because I really learned the game working with her, because with her I didn't have a team of people to work with me. You know, I didn't have what I would normally have if I was working with somebody in the State Department or the Secret Service, or people who were well established in the industry and knew what they were doing, who had the resources, the manpower, the communication, stuff like that. When you go out and you start working in the executive protection industry as an individual, you're really an individual. You're a one-man team, and they require a lot from you. So this is one of the things that I wish that I had known before I started getting into the executive protection business, because if had I known this, I probably would have been doing something else. You know, I probably would have gotten to network or cyber security. But what I found out is that I was working by myself. And there was an incident with Kim Kardashian in France, where her bodyguard, where she was robbed. She took one bodyguard to France with her for Fashion Week, and while she stayed home while her family went out to this Fashion Week show. So while she was there, some people came in, kicked in the door, or someone got in there, tied her up, took jewelry, took money, and that's pretty much what happened. Well, they eventually caught and prosecuted the people who did it, but they Kim Kardashian filed a claim with her insurance company, AIG. AIG then did what's called subrogation, which means, okay, if they pay out an insurance claim, then they can go out after another person to recoup that money. And the other person in this thing that they deemed was responsible for Kim Kardashian and the burglary was Pascal Duvier. And Pascal had a thriving company. He was working with a lot of celebrities. He was working worldwide with celebrities. And so AIG in turn sued Pascal Duvier, and to the tune of $6 million. So that lawsuit, from the time that happened, that lawsuit put Pascal Duvier out of business, because no other insurance agency is going to insure your company after you have to pay out that kind of money. So you could just forget about it. So not only that, he had a negative connotation of not being a person who was well versed in doing his job. And so Pascal Duvier is one of those people, the type of people that I talked about, a person who's 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 280, all muscle, and basically, just as he performed just like he worked. He performed just like he looked. He wanted to muscle his way through everything, ego his way through everything, telling people what to do, to get out of the way, pushing people, beating up people, and doing things like that. But like I said, this job that we do, that I do, is a very, very boring job. So had I known that I was going to be bored, then I probably wouldn't have gotten to this job. But I'm not going to tell you, this job has been very rewarding for me. It's put my children through college. It's bought me multiple properties. It bought me 50 acres of land where I was able to build multiple gun ranges on the land. It's bought me vehicles. It's taken me around the world. I work with some of the most high-profile people that you can ever imagine, including the guy who makes the electric cars. But had I known what I had to go through, maybe I wouldn't have taken this path. So, I wanted to do this video for you guys who are thinking about getting into this industry, not knowing where to start, not knowing where to go. And I'm going to tell you some of my mistakes and some of my downfalls that got me to where I am, and, how you can avoid them. Now, if you're trying to avoid pain, you're trying to avoid mistakes, forget about it, because mistakes are part of the process. Mistakes are part of the growth period. The pain, if you go to the gym and lift weights, while you're lifting weights, after you're lifting weights, there's some pain, there's some stress, there's some duress that you have to go to in order to get those muscles to grow. In the executive protection, there is some industry, there is some pain that you're going to have to go through if you want to grow. So again, guys, excuse me, I haven't eaten all day, so I'm going to be really rude today. So if you guys don't mind, I need to eat this. It's something quick that the missus made for me. So I'm going to gobble it down and try not to do it too much in your face. But so speaking of that, not eating was one of the other things that you go through. So I'm gonna tell you some things that may make you want to think this. No sleep, no eat, low pay, bad bosses, no time with your family, and uncertainty about your career path and if you can make it long term. So first thing is you're gonna work long hours when you're doing this business, right? So sometimes, sometimes you will work long hours, and it depends on who the client or the principal is that you're working with, how those long hours play out. Again, my job is, for me at this point in my life, is very boring. I said, if you're pulling out a firearm or you got to fight somebody, you have failed at your job from step one. Because as an executive protection agent, your job is all about planning. That's the major part of your job. It's very boring. It takes a lot of time. But if you plan right, you really never have to get in any kind of incident. Like I was talking about the person with the AR rifle in a suit running around. That's his advertisement for his executive protection school. Because you know why? Because that looks cool. Running around with a rifle looks cool, and it plants a seed in your mind. This is what I'm going to be doing. If I really advertise what executive protection agents do in a video, you probably wouldn't sign up for that school. And because this is why this title has been titled. I wish this is things that I wish I knew before I became a bodyguard, because I probably wouldn't have become a bodyguard. But what the major part of what an executive protection or bodyguard does is planning. So we know where we're going before we get there. We send people to their location before we get there. We scope out. If it's a hotel, we scope out all the entrances and exits. We see who the general manager is. We find out if they have security, where the security office is, where the loading dock is, where the exits are, where the emergency exits are, if they have a defibrillator or AED, health stuff, first aid kits, if they have that on site. From there, we talk about where, at every location we go, we're doing the same thing. If you have security, are they armed? Are they unarmed? We're checking out what the security looks like. What are their responsibilities? We're looking at if our principal is staying in the presidential suite, we go sweep the presidential suite. We're looking at alarm clocks, television sets. We're looking for bugs and devices, and not bed bugs, but listening devices and counter surveillance stuff. We're sweeping the rooms for that type of stuff. And for every location that we're doing, we're going to our principal, our client is going to, we're doing those for those locations. So all of that is planning. That's all the stuff that people don't see. That's all the stuff that our principals don't see, right? So when we show up, we just look methodic. We look like the principal. We know where we're going. So if there's check-in, we've already checked them in. We checked them in under a false name. We may have checked them in under our name, and then, or if there's a company, we check under the company name, or maybe the principal's personal assistant or executive assistant. We're checking in the room in their name. So when we get there, elevators, we know where the elevators are. We've talked to the security. Somebody is there. We call that person the person that goes before the advanced guy. So the person, when you see a security detail show up with say a celebrity, and all of a sudden there's 100, 200 people out there, and they're paparazzi, and they're taking pictures, and the agents have to push through the crowd with the celebrity. That is by far, that is a very dangerous situation. But when that happens, that means, and you see that means that the people who did this, who actually protecting their people, their principal or that VIP, don't know what they're doing at all. They don't know what they're doing. In my In the last 25 years, I haven't had to experience that at all. Excuse me, guys. I haven't had to experience that at all because everything is done in planning. So if there's an advanced person and that person has gone to that location in advance, beforehand, before you get there, we go at least 2 weeks before. We know it's a trip, international trip, cross country trip. We try to go at least 2 weeks before to get all of that information so we're not arriving with our principal, our client, and then struggling through and having to deal with all kind of risks, all kind of inconveniences. So we do that homework beforehand, and so we do it at least 2 weeks before. And then let's say we're here now, we've picked up or we've arrived with our principal, our client at an airport. We ran the routes from the airport to the hotel to the restaurant they're going to go to that night or for lunch or that day, or then if they have a meeting somewhere or if they're going to perform at a venue, we've gone to all of those places. And then there's somebody there when we get there. So 2 weeks before, and then an hour or two before, we send what we call the advanced person. So the advanced person gets there, and that person is scoping everything out. And if they see anything like a large crowd, paparazzi, anything like that, they're saying, here, this is the new drop location, and they'll send us a map or whatever, put their pin themselves. This is where you're going to drop off because there's 100 people out front, and I don't want you guys to go through that. So a lot of times we're going through loading docks, back of house of the hotels and restaurants, kitchens, and things like that. So also that advanced person, when you're coming out of those locations, that advanced person is also outside of that location, has done his or her inspection of the outside location. And then there's a bit of communication going on between the close protection team and that advanced person that's saying, okay, the close is clear, or hey, use plan B or plan C to leave the building because in the threats to the risk or the inconvenience that could happen to the principal. So my days outside of that are unexciting because my advanced person has taken care of that. I'm just getting my principal from point A to point B. That's it. Once they get from point A to point B, then my job is pretty much done. So a lot of times, if it's a restaurant, you're gonna take a table somewhere close. So they maybe say, we're fine, go ahead and sit in the car. You could do that. But for the most part, my job is done until that person says, I'm ready to go. And when that person says, I'm ready to go, everything we did in forward, we do in reverse, okay? So there should be very little time that you, as an executive protection agent or a bodyguard, that you are running into encounters where you're actually going hands-on with people. And when you do see it, especially if you guys watch my reaction videos, you can see that those people aren't coordinating well. They're not working together as a team well. There's very little communication. Oftentimes they don't have earpieces. When they get to the vehicles are the wrong vehicles. The vehicles are locked. So, you got the driver inside who probably has never been to a driving school. He's in there talking to his girlfriend or watching the next Netflix documentary, and he's paying no attention, and the security people are outside pulling the door. So I blame the security agent, the lead security agent, the close protection officer, for not establishing that communication, the drop locations, the pickup locations, and that communication when the security team is moving. So simply, when we're moving, somebody is on the radio telling the driver or the transportation team, simply move it, okay? And then we're giving at least a 10-minute advance notice so that if they're far away, which they shouldn't be far away, once you're working in a security detail, you shouldn't be moving unless you need to go to the bathroom, and that's a whole nother story one of the things I wish I knew. Because if you're a driver on a security detail, if you don't have to do number two, number one is normally done in something like this in the car because you can't go nowhere, The last thing you want to do is this close protection team to call you and you're not where you're supposed to be. I can guarantee you that will probably be your last security detail. So that's something that I wish I knew. The other thing that I wish I knew is a lot of times you don't get to eat. I was saying that. You may go into a restaurant. When I work with certain principals when I was first starting out, especially on the celebrity side, they don't really understand the value of the people who are protecting them. And so they may go to a 5-star restaurant. You haven't eaten all day, and they sit down at the 5-star restaurant. Especially if you're new, you might not have the kind of money to eat at a 5-star restaurant. The places they eat and the things that they eat. So that's kind of capped out. So you may not eat. There have been times that people I have in my beginning career, and other people have gone all day without even having a meal. So it's important that as you get into this industry, you start thinking about that. I may not ever get a chance to eat. So when you start loading your go bag, my go bag is over there. You want to start loading it up with things like snacks, Kind bars, Cliff bars. Put some water, definitely bottles of water inside of your bag, or a bottle, one or two, depending on how big your bag is and how heavy you want it to be. But on the other side of that, I would say something to drink, because drinking water on a EP detail is not always a good thing, because if you have to go to the bathroom, you might not get a chance to go to the bathroom, and you have to do that dance, and mess up your bladder trying to hold your urine for the most part. So I tried it when I'm working security details. I try to drink as minimum as possible, and I try to make sure that I have some survival stuff inside of my go bag just in case I don't get to eat. Because that light doesn't want to be on. Now, what else did I wish I knew? So we're talking about pay. When you're first starting out, we had a great live on Instagram last night. If you guys, I'm gonna post it on here. I'll put some shorts on here on my YouTube channel. But if you didn't check it out last night, if you missed me on Instagram, just go back over there and watch that live on Instagram about how I started, and my ex-partner, who's still my brother, he just kind of branched out and started his own security firm. Where we started, we both been in this game for 30 years, but go watch that live, and it will give you the blueprint to being very, very successful in this executive protection industry. So I had a young man on there. His name is Shelby Blake. I love Shelby. Shelby came to my class in 2023. At the end of that class, at a week later, Shelby was working with one of my colleagues, and then 2 or 3 months later, I put Shelby on a job, and Shelby has been all over the world with principals doing executive protection work. The great part of that video, it almost brought a tear to my eye. I asked Shelby, I said, Shelby, what were you doing before you came to my class? He said, I was working at Amazon. He was working at Amazon delivering packages, and he said that wasn't his life. He wanted something better for himself. So he took his last $2,000, came to my class, and it's been life changing. It's been up for him ever since then. And this wasn't nothing that I told him to do, asked him to do. I just went live. I didn't even know I was going to go live, and he was one of the people who popped on that live. So I encourage you all to watch that live, and I'll try to chop it up into shorts and then put it on my YouTube channel so that you can see it. So one of the things that I wish I knew was how many hours you would have to work, because a lot of times people, especially when you're working with celebrities, you could be working up to 18 hours and 20 hours a day. And a young man that I spoke to at the Diddy trial, a lot of you guys know I was at the Diddy trial. Excuse me if you're just joining. I haven't eaten pretty much all day, so I'm just going to be eating a little bit. So I was at the Diddy trial. There was a young man who was working for a very high-profile celebrity, and we just got into a conversation. He already knew who I was. He came over, started talking to me, and it was weird because it happened to me twice. during the Diddy trial. And you all who don't know, I was at the Diddy trial for 3 weeks inside of the courtroom covering the trial. But I met a lot of people. Some of the people that I met was Diddy's security. And one of the ironic things is on the day that the verdict came in, I met Fahim. Fahim, the guy that they had been talking about as a co-conspirator in this case. When I met Fahim, he knew who I was too. So he walked over to me, was smiling, he had his hand out, and I was like, "Oh man, who is this guy?" Because I didn't know that I knew him, but he said that we had met before. He shook my hand, and I introduced myself, and he said, "I know who you are." And then he introduced himself, and he said, "Fahim." I took a step back, and I said, "Okay, is this guy trolling me?" Because Fahim, I had been talking about Fahim, D-Rock, Uncle Paulie, all of these guys in this trial as co-conspirators for Diddy because I thought they were going to jail, and I told him that in the lunchroom. So it was a surreal experience because him and I stood there for about 10 or 15 minutes just chatting, and at the end of that conversation and during that conversation, I realized that maybe the government had trumped something up on Diddy. And not saying that he didn't do anything that they accused him of, right? They could have technically proven, could have technically proven him guilty of the RICO and everything else that they charged him with. And I'm speaking from, remember, you guys who've been watching for a little while since this live started, I'm speaking from a person from a law enforcement background, not from a black man looking at the circumstances of how he was charged. Now, I believe how he was charged was definitely orchestrated. I also believe that they overcharged him, and in some kind of ways, I believe that this was targeted in that it was to teach Diddy a lesson, and I believe that lesson has been learned because he has spent from the beginning of the trial, not including pretrial stuff, but from the beginning of the trial, and that trial went 8 weeks, he spent over $200,000 a day to defend himself. So when I'm talking to Fahim in the lunchroom, Janice Combs is there, King Combs is there, Quincy Combs is there, Chance Combs is there, Delilah and Jesse James Combs were there, the whole family. Everybody was in the courtroom, and I'm sitting amongst them, and we're having a conversation. And when I walked away from that conversation, I said, this guy, Fahim, I never met Uncle Paulie. I never met D-Rock. And they got some names that sound like, they could be, those names didn't sound like nice names. But Fahim, he just went by Fahim. Well-dressed, well-groomed, well-spoken. We had a great conversation. I said, well, I'm going to be honest with you, brother. I thought you were going to jail. I thought they were coming for you next. So congratulations on that you didn't get charged. And when they iced, when the jury came back and with the not guilty on the RICO charges, then that really cleared the path for Fahim, KK, Uncle Paulie, and D-Rock, because if you can't get Diddy on a RICO, they can't get them, right? You got to prove one, you prove all, pretty much. So we had a great conversation, and I honestly left that conversation saying that guy, the things that they accused that guy of, anybody's capable of doing it, but I just really didn't have a feeling that he would be a man that would operate himself like that. So, but getting back to the celebrity part, I was talking about another one of the security people who were there who was protecting the celebrity, and that person told me specifically, he says, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. He said, how much would you charge somebody to be an armed executive protection agent or a bodyguard? And I said, well, it depends on who the person was, what the risk was, what the threats was, how many hours I had to do. He said, well, I make $240 a day. I say, to do what? You know what I mean? I'm going to be honest. I would be very insulted if somebody called me for $200 a day to do executive protection work, if they called me for $300 a day, if they called me for $400 a day, if they called me for $500 a day, if they called me for $600 a day, if they called me for $800. I would be insulted. I would probably hang up the phone on them, right? Because I've got 30 years in this game, and I work with the people on the highest level in the government and corporate business, and foreign nationals, including prime ministers, princes, presidents of other countries. So your $500 a day doesn't even interest me. I wouldn't even wake up. I would probably again hang up the phone on a person who offered me $500 a day. For this man to work $240 a day, for sometimes up to $18, $20 an hour. And I'm just do the math for you guys. I did the math on my live last night. But let's just say, what number y'all want me to have? Want me to start $500 a day? Let's do what this particular bodyguard was making. I pulled up my calculator on my phone, and he said $240 a day. To be armed, to carry a gun, to protect a celebrity who makes millions of dollars a day. So you're there to protect their millions, but they give you $240 a day. And if that ain't the most insane shit that I've ever heard in my life, you can't tell me what is. So let's go with $240 a day. And he said, yeah, he worked 18 to 20 hours a day. So let's use the 20-hour mark. And I'll tell you how much money that he makes for working 20 hours a day. Hope you guys can see that. At $240 a day, working 20 hours is $12 an hour to protect a person who's worth millions. And let me be honest with you. If you are in the executive protection business, you're a bodyguard, and you're working for high profile people, a lot of times being able to say, hey, I work for Diddy, or I work for Ludacris, or I work for Drake, that is people's rewards, because they just want to be in the picture. They just want to be in a picture and post it on their Instagram so they can live vicariously through other people. And I think that's the strangest shit that I ever seen in my life, that you want to be able to brag about working for other people who are oftentimes rude, who oftentimes don't pay you, who oftentimes stay in 5-star hotels and may put you in a Comfort Inn or some kind of ran down hotel on the other side of the town, who oftentimes will eat at a 5-star restaurant and you have to watch them eat or not eat at all, to talk down to you, because I've seen it. And I can't say that I've experienced, because first of all, I'm a man. So I don't need your money. So I'm here to protect you. So number one, let's just start as you're going to treat me like a professional. But first and foremost, you're going to treat me like a man. I'm not holding your bag. I'm not carrying your bags. You're not telling me, hey, get this, do that. Just excuse me, can you do this? Because respect comes first. And there are people, once they find out that they can pay you $240 an hour to protect them and you're armed, they treat you like the help. They don't treat you like an asset that you are. And that's why it's important that you get credentials, that you get in the right organizations, that you take the right training programs, because then you can stand on your own 2 feet. You can tell people, no, $500 is not a day enough. $240 definitely is not enough. And you're going to treat me with some respect, or I'm going to be out of here. And simply I say this because I've seen people, hey, you just imagine a Sean Combs working for Sean Combs, and you're not a man who can't stand on your own 2 feet. Can you imagine the way that he talks to people? And I don't have to tell you, I'm not crashing Sean Combs, but just go back and surf through some of the videos and look how he talks to his employees. And you're not a man. You just become the help, right? So I'll tell you this. You're not going to talk to me that way. But simply, I'm here to protect you. And that means that only thing standing between you getting an ass whipping is me. And I'm very capable of giving you an ass whipping regardless of who you are. So you're not going to talk to me any kind of way. So when you reduce yourself and you don't know your value in the executive protection industry, you don't know your value. People understand that. People of power and wealth, they understand that. And then they play on your emotions and your intelligence. So that's one of the things that I wish that I knew in advance. I never had those problems, but when I did start working in the executive protection industry years and years ago, that's what it was. It was $25 an hour, so you made $200 a day. But oftentimes I was protecting millionaires. And when I first started working with Mary J. Blige, I think that was what I made, $25 an hour. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm a police officer. I'm armed. This is how much our cost. But we're talking about almost, almost 3 decades ago, 2.5 decades ago. So that was good money 2.5 decades ago when I didn't really have the credentials or you don't have the credentials or the experience to really demand certain types of money. So what I would recommend for everybody, if you're in this game, be in this game. The people who are the best at what they do, who are the greatest at what they do, they invested a lot of money into becoming the best, right? So I have certifications in driving. I'm a driving instructor, but you see my skin? I'm a black man. So I started a executive protection driving school. Now I have an exclusive partnership for BMW to teach with BMW to teach on their tracks, in their cars, in their facilities, using their instructors for security people from all around the world. I can teach in Spartanburg, South Carolina, Thermal, California, and their tracks in Indianapolis. So anytime I want to post a class, I call them up and say, this is the class dates, and we put it out. And then we go and we train people who become some of the world's best executive protection agents in the world. And what people miss out is because they don't want to invest in themselves. This thing, anything that you're into, is a bank. If you invest in yourself, it's going to pay the highest dividends. It's going to give you the highest returns, right? And you can only get out of the bank what you put in. So when I have people that reach out to me and say, well, hey, how do I get on your team? Again, I'm 6'8", 6'9". I work with this celebrity. I did this, that. Let me just explain to you this. Those kind of people would never ever get on my team because they have never invested in themselves. And I'll tell you, the people who I work with, you could work with Drake, you could work with Jay-Z, you could work with some of these people, but the people that I work with, some of the people, they've never even heard of these people. I work with the man, they've never heard of a Drake. They don't listen to the radio, they don't watch TV. They are about their business. So when you send me this and they say send me your resume, and I say, yeah, this is James. He's 6'9". He bench presses 9,000 pounds. He's 300 pounds. Whatever. They don't care about that. They're not even looking about that. They want to see. They don't want to see your experience. They want to see your certifications. And I always tell people, the more paper you got, the more paper you get. So I have, again, a driver certification. Because I'm black, I can't get in the doors that other people can get in. So if I have a driving school, everybody wants to say, well, where did he learn how to teach this? You can go to our counterpart school and you just sign up and pay more money, and they never question their credentials at all. But for me, I knew that there would be a question mark. So let me go and get my credentials. So I went and became a driving instructor. I went and took classes to become a race car driver. I took counter surveillance classes. I took electronic surveillance classes, how to detect bugs, hidden cameras, and listen devices, investigation classes. I went down a whole gambit. So if you look at my quote unquote duty belt or my Batman belt, I have a whole bunch of tools and resources that I can use to walk in any door and get and demand the amount of money that I want. Also, a class in risk and threat assessment. So a lot of people don't know that risk assessment and threat assessment are two different things. So they'll use those words interchangeably. But that is a skill with this right certification that you can get, that you can walk in the door and make $100,000 just by showing up. You haven't done any work at all. You don't have a security team. You don't have vehicle. You don't have to transport anybody. You just learn how to conduct risk and threat assessments. And that is a high demand skill that corporations and high net worth individuals are paying top dollar for. I just recently worked a couple of weeks ago with a billionaire, right? And not only a billionaire, he was a very nice guy. Treated me well. In fact, he doesn't even like security. Excuse me, guys, if you're just joining, I haven't eaten all day, so I'm trying to take a nibble at a time at this, so not to interrupt the video. So this person actually invests money into the United States. So we were here. They flew into the United States. I did my thing. We had an armored vehicle. We took them wherever they wanted to go. We went to several United States government official office and homes. I did the job. But this person doesn't even like security. And you'll find out that a lot of people at the highest level of business and some of them in government don't like security because they want to feel like regular people. So this personal assistant kind of told me that. And so, again, I've been doing this game for a long time, so I know how to play people. I'm visible. I'm close enough. I'm close enough not to have to introduce myself, but close enough. Correction. Close enough to handle business if the shit hit the fan, but far enough not to have to introduce myself. That is the rule of thumb. So I was moving in that manner, and this person, he's a billionaire. In his country, he has security. When he travels, he doesn't like to have security, but he felt it was important enough for this particular job to have me on his details. So when my phone rings, sometimes I'm still, even after 30 years, I'm still flabbergasted by the people who call me. Sometimes it's people from the White House. Sometimes it's people from again, the highest corporations. I work with some of the top Fortune 50 companies in the world, and then these are the people I work with. We have executive transportation and secure transportation or close protection. Again, a lot of them do not have close protection agents or bodyguards with them. A lot of them choose to go it alone, and so this is how the United Healthcare CEO was murdered in New York. These are guys that, hey, no, don't need this, don't need that. Are just gonna do whatever, and they do their own thing because they actually have some of them got personal stuff going on. They don't want people in their business, but some of them just feel like they want to be a regular person. And after the United Healthcare homicide, they were one of the people who called. Several corporations called, and they said, we're considering hiring armed drivers. And you guys are watching this video. Tell me what an armed driver can do for a person that you're quote unquote protecting once that person gets out of the car. I'll wait. And in the meantime, I eat some of my noodles. But the answer is they can't do anything for that person once they get out of the car. That armed driver, the company or the person just paid a lot of extra money to have an armed driver who is nothing but an armed witness. Because once they get out of their car, the damage is already done. If there's somebody lying in wait for them, the damage is already done. By the time you get out of the car, the person is running down the street, and you cannot return fire on a person who has already committed something against your principal, the person you're quote unquote protecting. This person is laying on the ground dying. You can't now run down the street, take your firearm out, and start firing at this person, because your job is to prevent an attack, not to prevent an escape. That's the law enforcement job. And if you do that, maybe someone says justified and says a good job, and you get an award from the city. But there's also a highly likely chance that you could not get an award from the city, but find yourself in handcuffs sitting on the side of the curb or side of the street, wishing you hadn't done that. So at that point, when the person that you were quote unquote assigned to protect, they're laying on the ground dying, it will behoove you to have taken a stop the bleed course or some kind of combat medical course that you could patch them up. So understanding your limitations. If a person wants to pay me a bunch of money to drive them and to have a firearm on me to quote unquote protect them, I'm going to take the money. I'm going to advise them that this pretty much is a waste of money because once again, once that person is out the car, they're vulnerable to whatever happens to them. And by the time you get out of the car, the person who did it is already going down the street and through an alley and never to be seen again, as was in the Brian Thompson United Healthcare case. So just think about that. So when we're talking about your certifications, you need to have these certifications. I wish I had known this in advance, but again, I was lucky to have got in with people who were already doing it at the highest level in the government, and being the Secret Service and State Department, and also at the mayor's detail in Washington D.C. So I want to shout those guys out. But a lot of those guys helped introduce me into the industry as well. And some of them are still there. I've been retired for, let's see, retired in 2007, so 18 years. I've been retired for 18 years, effective March 7th this year. This will be my 18th year as retired. And so, without those certifications, you don't get the money. So expect to get paid low, $250 a day. That could be that could be 18, 20 hours a day. I've worked many 18, 20 hours a day. But as you grow, the moment you take an executive protection class, as long as it's the right executive protection class, so I'm not telling you guys to go out here and just sign up for an executive protection class. What I'm telling you is get into a reputable, credible executive protection course. Make sure you do your research. When you're looking for a class, make sure that you go to the About Us page, because they can fool you with rolling around on the ground and shooting around trash cans and fighting inside of a car. And I also want to know, how does somebody get inside of your car to have a fight anyway? So I've seen a lot of this training. If you're in a car and somebody pulls a weapon out on you, and then they're fighting in the car over the how does this person get in your car in the first place? I'm just really curious to know that. And now, unless you're a taxi cab driver or Uber driver or something like that, then I can see you having to fight for a car. They even got a video I saw with the person coming to your car, and one of my people asked me this because he went to the training class. He said, "Okay, what do you do if you're sitting in your car and somebody comes up to your car and they're from the outside and then they start to try to fight you in your car?" I said, "Roll the window up." Because these people had taught them this elaborate way to fight outside of a car. Roll the flipping window up or drive off, run his ass over. That's what I would do simply. But these are the things that people are teaching in these courses. So it looks like, oh, yeah, I want to do that, right? But the first thing you do when you do anything, you're going to look at the reviews of it. You go to the About Us website. You're going to see what these people are made of. What are their walks of backgrounds from? Have they worked in Secret Service? Where did they get their training? What type of principals and clients do they protect? These are things that you want to know before you go spend your hard-earned money thinking that you're going to get somewhere, and thinking that what you've seen in their videos and their advertisement is what actually happens in the executive protection world. Because I'm just going to tell you, it simply doesn't happen like that. Okay, so the next thing that I wish I knew is how much time that I was going to be away from my family. As you're growing in this profession, you will travel a lot. Last year I traveled 256 days. 256 days. The year before that, I traveled 238 days. When I finally came home, we did some work for the inauguration. And when I finished that, uh, things got kind of slow. So I'm down about maybe $500,000 this year in business. Things got really slow at the end of the year, and then they're starting to pick up. I don't know why they got slow, but I told some of my colleagues who work on the private side, I said, bro, I promise you, I am happy that this happened, right? So it gave me some time to do a couple of things. It gave me some time to come on and create my content on YouTube for people who follow me, because I have a massive following, but I haven't been able to talk to you guys. I haven't been able to give you the content to create these videos where you can learn without even going into a class. If you watch any of my content, the things that you learn in my class, those are the things that I'm spelling out in these videos. I'm showing you the mistakes that people make and how they make them and how you can avoid them. So I think that's an important part for this industry, for people to have a resource that they can go to and say, now I see. Okay. And you understand not to do this, not to do that. That was one thing. So it allowed me to create content. But more importantly, I had leaves. I told my wife, I said, I got leaves in the backyard that have been out there for a year and a half. The front yard, I do okay. So the front yard, I try to get most of them up. When I come home, I unpack, repack, and I don't wait until the phone rings. I repack immediately because the phone always rings. So I unpack, repack, and then I try to rest. And sometimes it takes me, man, 3-4 days just to kind of recover and get rested and get back to a normal life. But then it's still okay. You still have a security firm to run. I have employees, I have offices, cars, contract proposals, invoices, meetings, all of that stuff. So when I finally come back from a detail, because a lot of these days are 16, 18, 12, 20-hour days, you're not getting time to do that. You're just getting up early, going to bed late, maybe eating somewhere in there between, depending on who you're working with, and then trying to take a shower and get some rest to get up the next day. All right, hold on, I got a question, guys. Quick question, OG, is the Flexi Protection course called? Yeah. That is. Flexi is respected by private. If you're, I'm taking it, if you're talking about Flexi, you're already in law enforcement already. So thank you for your question first and foremost, and thanks for watching. You guys are just joining. I haven't eaten all day, so I'm trying to sneak a fork full of food in between these conversations. Yes, Flexi is respected. So tech sneaks. You are in law enforcement, right? If you're talking about Flexi, you have to be in law enforcement. So yes, it is respected by private industry. Um, so again, you're not getting sleep, you're not eating, and I come back home, and then I got all of this housework. I just cut my grass. I've been home. I came from New York last Thursday. I think Friday was 4th of July. Friday was 4th of July, I think. So last Thursday at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got home. I got some sleep. The first night. Then the next day was 4th of July. I spent time with my neighbors and my family. And then I've been looking at the grass that has been growing. There's almost 3 feet high in my front yard. Now, I do have the money to pay for a landscaper, yeah. But I also have a John Deere tractor in my backyard that I actually like to do yard work. I like to cut down the trees. I like to lay the mulch. So a lot of stuff I do by myself. So I'm looking at this grass that's 3 feet high. And this morning I finally say, flip it. And pulled out the tractor and I went out there and I cut the grass. But just think about that, grass hasn't been cut for three weeks. The leaves were in the backyard a year and a half. And then in my front yard, most of the leaves were cleaned up, but there was still a pile, and it's still a pile of leaves from the fall that's in my front yard. So when you're working in the executive protection business, you spend a lot of time away from your home and away from your family. So when I was working with Mary J. Blige, I'm gonna answer that question in a second, text with. So I was working for Mary J. Blige when I first started traveling by myself with my own principal, no other security team. My kids were very young, and I was working for those 3 years, and I didn't know what I was getting into. So it was plane here, train there, whatever. So this was a constant thing. And everybody's loving me, but they're seeing me transition from the law enforcement industry profession into the executive security profession, and to see me go from high level to high level, because at that time Mary J. Blige was hot. I think she had the song "The One" out with Drake. Drake had just come out, so I'm working with them, and I realized that I was going a lot. And we had just got home and from a long trip, and I pretty much unpacking, kind of getting acclimated back into things. And I got another phone call from her team saying, "Hey, listen, we're going out to Milan. And I'm like, well, damn, I just got home. My son at that time was 5 years old. He was playing, he started playing little league football. So, and he's a great football player, by the way. Now he got cut earlier this year from a major NFL team. So, but he made it. So I'm very proud of him. But they said your son is good. That's what everybody told me. Your son is good, but when you show up, he's great. And I started thinking about that. My daughter's playing the pianos. They were singing in church. They had all of this stuff going on, tumbling classes, ballet, all of this stuff, PTA meetings, school trips. I'm like, listen, I don't even know them. I we went through a divorce, so me and my wife ain't my ex-wife, we're not really on the best terms. And then I have children who I'm not seeing. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing all of this for my family. This is what I'm doing this for, but I'm not there for my family. And when Mary's office called me and they told me this is what we had just come home and this was what was going to happen, I said to myself, and I told them too, I said, you know what? I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. Mary, I love working with you. Anything in the United States, locally, I will do. But as far as, doing like we've been doing, I think it's time for a change for me. And that was big for me because I'm still young. I'm still young. My kids are still young. That was huge for me to turn down not only the trip, but to really start to detaching myself away from that so that I could spend time with my family. So because my family is the most important thing in the world to me. And for you all, your family should be the most important thing in the world for you. Let me answer this question real quick. Yeah, okay, yep, I've been in DOD protection for about 5 years. Thanks for the reply. Yeah, for sure, man. If you can, I think I got the Discord, my Discord in the description of this. When you get off this live or when you get a chance, just click that Discord, join the community. Any of you all in here, if you want to grow in the executive security business, the executive protection business, if you have a security company, if you're thinking about starting a security company and you want to grow and you want to grow, just join my Discord community. I have business coaching, mentoring. We have just regular talk on there. And my Discord is new, so I'm just building it. So as we build it, we're looking for people to contribute. Don't only come in, with knife, fork, spoon, and cup. Come in looking to contribute. If you have questions, ask questions. You got a lot of people in there. If you have something to contribute that can help other people grow, get in that Discord community and drop that information, man. Help people get to the next level because at this point in my career, I'm 18 to 24 months out from saying, okay, that's it. I'm gonna give it up. I'm gonna sell my company. Now my son, the one who was playing football, he just graduated boot camp and he's deciding if he's gonna go full service, military, army, or if he's gonna stay in the National Guard. Now, either way, if he decides he wants to run the company, I'm just going to pass the baton and let him run it. And then I'm going to stay on as the chairman of the board to help govern it, to make sure that the relationships that I've already fostered with the government and the help in private industries and those principles that clients that we already have, that we continue to foster those relationships and to be a guidance for the company. So my long term of completely being out of the security industry is 5 years. My short term is 24 months or 2 years. And at 5 years to 3 years, I'm really going to be silent and we'll just be having the board meetings, quarterly, monthly, or whatever it is, and me being there as a guidance. But day-to-day operations, I want to be completely out. So when you get into this executive security thing, understand that it's going to take a lot away from your home, your family, and yourself. And I tell this to a lot of people. Sometimes the person that you spend the most time with is the person that you spend the least quality time with. And that person is yourself. You're with yourself 24 hours. And I see people who are running around doing things for other people, trying to manage these businesses. We're living to work instead of working to live, right? And we're neglecting ourselves when you should be reading books and improving your knowledge, taking classes, meditating, maybe going to a dojo, working on your health, exercising, all of those things that we're neglecting to do while we put other people and their families first. So that is one of the things that I wish that I'd known about the executive protection business. Or if I had known those things, again, maybe I had taken a different career path. So we've been talking a little over an hour now. You guys have any questions? And I hope y'all mind me eating my oodles and noodles. It's the only thing I eat all day. Okay, so another thing, I'm gonna give you guys this, and thanks for the likes, guys. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the likes. Thank you all who have been contributing. If you are, you have to decide what level of protection side you want to be on. I talk about this. I use this analogy a lot. Denzel Washington can get any role he wants. Your favorite comedian, well, let's call it Jamie Foxx for lack of saying. So Jamie Foxx. No, that's not Jamie Foxx, because Jamie Foxx he can go either way, and he's taking more serious roles in the late. Let's call it Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker or Chris Rock. Denzel Washington can get a Chris Tucker or Chris Rock role any day. But Chris Rock and Chris Tucker can never do a Denzel Washington role. And the reason why we call that typecasting, when you put yourself in one role. And a lot of people, again, believing that bravado, size, muscle, ego, all of that stuff is what governs the executive protection business. A lot of people lean towards the entertainment side of the business. And the entertainment side of the business is where you're treated the worst, you're paid the worst, and you're kind of just stuck in there because you don't have any real experiences or any clientele that the people who are on the brighter side, the Denzel side, so to speak, will be looking for, right? So you don't want to get into glorifying these celebrities. You just see what happened with Diddy and these people who are glorifying them and taking pictures. So all the people who had pictures and videos with Diddy prior who were working in security prior to him being arrested, them people got silent. Oh man, they got silent. No more pictures, no more videos. They deleting stuff. Nobody's talking about it because their pictures and videos were their reward, not their pay. Understand what I'm saying? Being able to say I work for this person or work for that person and to show off that, that meant something to these people, and they were living vicariously through the celebrities. But when you realize, and I need to go to bed, I got a fishing trip at 4:45 in the morning. So when you realize that you're typecasting yourself, you're getting with these people who really don't care about your growth in the industry and really don't care about compensating you for what you're worth, then you put yourself in a box. So you got to constantly being desire and be willing and intentional about your growth in the executive protection industry. So what does that mean? Again, connecting with the right people. I just told you guys about my Discord. I just told you about my experience. And if you go back and watch my live from last night on Instagram, you'll learn a lot more about me and the people that I surround myself with and the people that I pull up by their bootstraps from the bottom and bring them up to the highest level of executive protection. So I like to say that I'm probably, but I mean, I'm going to say, I'm not going to even say probably, I'm the most important black man to the private industry and executive protection. The most important. There's nobody more experienced in this that I know. If you do, drop their name in the comments. But in this industry, I'm the most important black man in the executive protection industry that most of you have never heard about outside of watching my videos. So I've helped a whole lot of people elevate in the industry. And if you go back and watch the video from my Instagram live yesterday, it's at my Instagram. It's on my channel page, but it's at security underscore czar, CZAR, at security underscore C as in Charlie, Z as in zebra, A as in apple, Oz and Robert. So securities are. And just watch that live. Watch the live that I did last night. I did two. The one that that I'm speaking of, I'm not sure if I changed the thumbnail on it, but it should be a picture of the cover page should be me at the top and then my ex-partner Gunner at the bottom. So you can just click on that, watch the whole live. I guarantee you once you start watching it, I guarantee you watch it till the end. It's life-changing. It's life-changing for the people who hear it. But more importantly, when you start watching the video, you can see the people who actually come under my tutelage, under my mentoring, under my training. You can hear their personal stories, how their relationship with me and attending my training course has changed their lives. So understand that. Always invest in yourself. Always go further. Always keep a good character, right? Character is everything. When a lot of people reach out to me, you'll hear this in that live too, especially if they look like me. My skin color is what I'm saying. It's always, hey, bro, how can I get down? I want to work with your team. I love to work with you, blah, 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 blah. So let me just tell you, I've been a sergeant, I've been a lieutenant, I've been a captain, assistant district commander on police departments. I have no problem with titles. My name is Melvin Key. I have no issues with titles. So I'm not a person, I'm a leader, I'm not a boss. I'm a leader, not a boss. So the titles mean nothing to me. However, when you're trying to grow in this industry, and you're nobody, so to say, in this industry, or you have very little experience, it is very disrespectful to call or email or DM somebody that you don't know and call them, "What's up, bro? How can I get down?" Nobody wants to hear that. Trust me, especially somebody who's been in this game for 30 years, laying the pavement for you so that you can get to where you need to go to, for you to downsize that person as though you're friends. And I tell people, I have no problem. Call me bro, call me dog, any of that stuff. But I'm going to treat you like you treat me, right? So basically, when people come to me, they're coming for a job opportunity. They're trying to grow in a business, but they're not acting like they're trying to grow in a business. They're acting like they're trying to be my friend. I don't want no friends. I have three brothers, and sometimes I don't like some of them. So, bro is the last thing that you want to call me. I've been done the worst by people who called me brother. I've been backstabbed, cutthroat, everything by people who called me bro. People who I've extended myself to help. So when people call me bro, it immediately sets me off. Right? So, but again, it has nothing to do with titles. And I tell people, you don't have to respect me, but you do gotta respect the game. And if I was a white man, an Asian man, a Hispanic man, when you reached out to me, you would be saying, "Hey, sir." And so, while I understand the culture of being African American and people respecting us on that level as an African American man, why don't you take it to the next step and respect the game? Because we're looking for professionals. I feel like if you call me bro, dog, or whatever that, when I put you in a car with my principal, because you don't know me, if I put you in a car or put you on a security team, what separates you from calling the principal by their first name or calling them dog or whatever? You understand what I'm saying? So when you don't know somebody, out of respect for, if not the person, for the game, it should be, "Hey, sir. Hey, ma'am. Hey, mister. Hey, missus. This is doing business." That gets attention. So many emails and DMs and stuff that I get, I just scroll right past. I used to get so angry, and I used to respond to all of them. Dog, I'll be like, "Dog, I'm not your dog." You understand what I'm saying? Again, I'm not better than anybody. I'm just trying to give you game. You're trying to get a job with me, but you just belittled me to your level, right? So what I try to tell people is treat business like business. Treat the person like you're actually trying to get somewhere. Treat the person that you're like you're actually trying to get a job. And then that person will actually give you some attention because they get the disrespect from so many people. The one person that finally reaches out and then shows the respect for the person and the game, you can get a long way with that, and because that shows your character, right? I don't want to be friends. I don't want to be friends. No new friends, no new friends. And Drake said no. I think he said no new friends, and he said it came out with another song, no friends in the industry. Right? Do you make friends and you make brothers while you're making money, and those relationships are built. It's not given. A lot of people believe that those relationships are given, but those relationships are built over time, trust, and going through the war zone together. So don't approach business like that. So these are things that I wish that I knew about the executive protection business before I got into it. Because again, if I had known all of these things, I may not have even done it. So I appreciate you guys for joining. I hope you learned something through this live. I'm going to try to come live every day, even if it's to talk for 10 or 15 minutes to answer questions about things. I'm going to also have another live sometime next week to talk about building a security company from scratch. I started my security company with $250 and an ironing board. Right now, it's a multi-million-dollar security firm who does international business. I have armored Maybachs, armored Cadillac Escalades. I have armored Sprinters. I'm sorry, don't want to lie. Don't have armored Sprinter. I have Sprinter vans. I do work in New York. I do work in DC. I do work in California. I do work in London. I do work in Paris. I do work in Turkey. I do work all over the world. I do work all over the world. And I've been incredibly blessed. And I always tell people that I'm no special than you. I'm no more special than you. I'm just a man with vision and intention, and I act out on it. And I believe a lot of people do not reach their highest height or their goals or their levels in life that they could, because deep down inside somewhere they don't believe in themselves. And we've been taught to pray to an outside God to do internal things for us, right? But I want to just challenge you today to understand who the God is in yourself. So you're praying to the inside God, nourishing and developing that inside God, and you're not asking things for outside. You're demanding it, and you're manifesting it and willing it to happen. That's who I am. I'm not any more smarter than you. I don't have any circumstances that would have given me favor. A lot of people say, "Oh yeah, he get this and that because he was in the police department." No, yeah, that laid the foundation, but I built upon the foundation. So I learned very on that a lot of people don't like police officers anyway. So I learned to say that I was a police officer last. When I talk to a customer, I say, "Oh, I have this certification. I've been working in security for 20 plus years. I have this certification. I have that certification. I work for this principal. I work for that person. Oh, and by the way, before I did all of that, I was a former police officer, and that's the icing on the cake. So not leading with the law enforcement thing, hoping that would get me into any doors. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. This has been great. Thank you guys for the comments. Thank you guys for the likes. Make sure that if you're not already following the channel, make sure you subscribe, like, share it, and stay tuned for the next video. And remember, if you want to power up like a GOAT, make sure you check out GOAT Fuel, the #1 energy drink, all natural ingredients from Jerry Rice. NFL legend, San Francisco 49 receiver, Jerry Rice. One of the best energy drinks on the market. And I wouldn't be saying that if I didn't endorse it. So I endorsed it. I drank it myself. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. If you have any questions, make sure you get in that Discord. Send me questions in the Discord. Introduce yourself in the Discord. And I will see you on my next live. Peace. I'm out.